I have to move to, like I said, there's one question on Syria that I want to ask. HDS seeming this, at a recent press conference, and I guess not a press conference, I guess it was a Senate hearing, Rubio pointed out that he believed that Syria was going to go into a quote unquote civil war, as he called it. Effectively, that HDS was going to lose control of the continent. Recently, there's footage out where HDS is once again in a fight where a militia of Druze has been fighting the HDS military contingent. Do you see that effectively happening? That this breaks down into some sort of continued escalation of conflict, where even though there may be pauses, that it is continuous escalation and continuous buildup?
Yeah, I mean, the United States and the Zionists want to have in Syria a hybrid of what happened in Libya, or what is happening in Libya, and that of what happened in Iraq and Lebanon. So the country is in anarchy in reality. There's cantons, it's on the path of something like Yugoslavia to break the same people. Yugoslavia, by the way, means South Slavic, South Slavia, the same people, and pretend that they have different languages, Croatian and Serbian and Bosnian, they're the same language, just accent, like accent of New York and accent of Texas, and cut them down on religious or sectarian lines of these cantons and have huge population transfers and, create such schisms between the fabric of the Syrian society that it's irreparable, right? That's what the aim of ISIS and Al-Qaeda is, and HTS. HTS is delivering, and Al-Jolani is delivering on what is requested of him. And he'd willingly, you will see, break up Syria, okay? It's not like he's fighting to keep Syria together, even as a thug, okay? He has no decision control of himself. And that's even if he's a thug, if he's not a Mossad, Arabized, like al-Baghdadi and before him Cohen in Damascus. So this is, I think, what the West wants. Hearing Rubio talk about this is not predicting; he's telling you what he wants to do.
Right. No, that's a good point. I have to be honest with you. I thought Jelani was going to be a fall guy. That ultimately there was no way on God's green earth that the U.S., or for that matter, Mossad, Israel, was going to be perfectly okay with an ISIS thug taking over and controlling this massive, important country. And if you allow somebody like Jelani to take over, you make it perfectly okay to overthrow Jelani, with Israel effectively saying, oh, well, Syria's in chaos, so we need to expand further. That basically Jelani taking over was their way to get further expansion by Israel into Syria, to allow them to take more and more territory under the justification that Syria is now in turmoil and we need to defend ourselves by stealing more Syrian land, with Jelani being perfectly the fact that he's a terrorist. They have zero issue or any loyalty associated to him. Trump can shake his hand all he wants, but ultimately Trump will walk out and say, yeah, we're okay with killing that guy and get rid of that guy. What is your take on that? Or no, he's the president's man. He's Israel's guy. As long as he do their bidding, they're perfectly okay with him being there. Which one is it from your point of view?
Well, he's definitely the man of the conservative wing of the empire that I just spoke about, right? If there was a Democrat in the White House, although this Al-Julani is a CIA asset, the United States would have, used a propaganda to claim the things that you said and give Israel more land, which, and continue the supposed sanctions and what have you. Okay, but now the United States is governed by the conservative wing that includes the Saudis and the Israelis, and they don't need to do the propaganda. They don't believe in this propaganda, and therefore they're outright giving Israel more land of Syria, and al-Julani and HTS and ISIS are not fighting back. They're outright looting all the resources of Syria, and al-Julani is not fighting back. And they're cutting the country into cantons, and al-Julani is not fighting back. You see, they don't need to anymore do it in propaganda. This is in the, what the conservative wing of the empire believes, and maybe they are right. They're just doing it by force. Why waste time on propaganda? Al-Julani is an Israeli, most probably, or as we saw from his record in his holding in what is it called, Abu Ghraib in Iraq, in his cell, his record says he's born in Saudi. So is he a Saudi or is he an Israeli? It doesn't matter. It means he's delivering on the conservative wing's positionality.
Oh, I see. Good point. And last topic that I want to get to. I want to get your take on this video. So the New York Times, once again, day late, dollar short. I always think you have to read between the lines on some of these articles that are coming out of the New York Times. Trump, in one of his recent press conferences, was asked, let's see. Yeah, all right. He was asked this in relation to a New York Times story that came out about a quote unquote deal with Iran. Now, I have to be honest with you, I don't know how this deal is going to take place. Trump has been escalating his demands the entire time. He doesn't seem to know exactly what he wants, short of doing something that ends up in war. And some of the most recent reporting was that he was going to be willing to accept a memorandum of understanding that they were going to, at some point, work towards a deal, because Iran has already told from the beginning, we're not accepting this kind of Libya model that you guys are trying to put forth. We're not stopping our work in the region. We're not stopping any of the stuff. We're supposed to be talking about nuclear enrichment. That was the only thing we're supposed to be talking about. And if you're going to be talking about anything else, we have nothing else to talk about, which means if you need to do a military strike, God be with you as you do that strike. We will blow your shit out the sky. That is the way and the position that Iran is taking. And God bless them for taking that position on this. The U.S. has threatened to bomb and attack for God knows how long. Now, the New York Times is acting as if Israel would do a strike purely on their own without the U.S. supporting them. And one of the things that's buried in the article is because ultimately they know or believe that the U.S. will back them up when Iran retaliates, which Iran will do. So whether in his mind Trump wants a deal, or whether in his mind he doesn't care about a deal and the entire fix is in for them to have a strike, it's irrelevant to the point. Will the U.S. back up Israel when they get bombarded by Iran? Well, the answer is, of course, yes. And I think everybody and their mama knows the answer is yes. This is what Trump said, though, and I want to get your take on this comment that he made here.
Blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody.
Back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Mr. President, doesn't matter on sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's not a
forward-
warning. I said, I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did
I
you
just
caution
said,
him?
I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with them. And I said, I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up.
He talked like a fool. Like the notion that Iran is going to be like, yeah, you can come in, take whatever you want and blow up whatever you want. Laith, give me your take on that.
I mean, obviously, everybody knows that Trump made huge changes to the White House press corps there and has all these plants, basically, that are asking him questions that have been told to ask. I mean, he wanted to look like he still has control of Netanyahu, that the Zionists don't control him, that he controls Netanyahu, and that this, the dog is on a leash still, right? That it's not wild. But that's his speaking to the MAGA crowd that are for months now been watching him being dragged on a leash by Netanyahu and the Zionists. So we should not believe any of that. Another thing that everybody should know is that the vast majority of the United States F-35 fleet right now is stationed in the Zionist colony.
Right.
So any attack that the Zionists are claiming to have conducted against Yemen and or in the future against Iran is actually being conducted by American pilots in American jets. The Israelis don't have the capability to conduct these mass raids on huge territories like Yemen and or Iran. And it's just a show. And the Iranians know this. And as long as these jets that are American are not flying out of American airfields in Qatar or Iraq, Saudi or the Emirates, the American assets on the ground in those countries are safe. This is part of the game. The Americans have decided that they cannot fight a war against Iran and or Yemen from their airfields in the Gulf and or their aircraft carriers because they were close to being sunk. And therefore, the only way to conduct warfare now against Yemen and or Iran is through this camouflage charade, pretending that it's Israeli flights, jets flying out of Israeli airports.
Agreed. I agree with everything you said, with one exception. I think that dog is on a leash. I think we're controlling that dog. Like, I don't buy that Israel is a rogue actor in this. Like, I think this is the same thing for Europe. That Europe knows what colonialism looks like. They know how bad it is. And they are trying to distance themselves while allowing Israel to do what Israel does in regards to taking Gaza. And I think Donald Trump, for all of this talk about, oh my God, I can't believe Netanyahu is doing this. Okay, dude, until you stop the weapons, don't talk to me. Like, until you
there's one thing with this. Okay,
Yeah.
I would have 100% agreed with you 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think we need to understand how integrated Zionism is within the Western empire. Like the South Afrikaner, they like to call themselves also indigenous, like these Zionists call themselves Semites.
Mm-hmm.
They had an important role in the imperial order, positionality on the Cape of Hope and the diamonds and so forth. But the Afrikaner elite didn't play a crucial role in the elite systems in other countries.
Right.
They were not like, let's say, owning news outlets in the United States or Canada or the UK, where they can be the kingmakers. Okay. What we have right now is a symbiosis between the Zionists that are Jewish supremacists and the rest of the elite in the West that have adopted Zionism as their national religion. It's the state religion that is enforced by the state's force. You see, that integration makes it hard to, at this point, say that the Zionists are just tools of the empire. I think they are. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
They are part of it. Yeah, they are one and the same. This is the problem right now, and this is why, otherwise, the mass movements in the West against the genocide over the last 2 years would have had a effect. Okay, would have had effect in the media, would have had effect on the politics, would have had effect on the elections. None of that happened because the whole elite structure in the West decided we're one color on this issue, and we will not allow the democratic representation of our own citizens, we are willing to cut the rights of our own citizens and make them sacrifice at the altar of Zionism. Thousands of people lost their jobs. Professors, look at what's happening in the universities. The United States at this point is willing to burn all the higher education clout it had for almost a century,
Yep.
right? It's willing to destroy its most important jewels of education, from Harvard to Yale to others, destroy them, destroy the international student corps that finances most of everything, destroy the research, all of that for Zionism. That wouldn't have happened. It didn't happen for Vietnam. It didn't happen for South Africa. This is where I personally can't anymore argue that the Zionists are the dog on the leash. I think they are I was going to say something rude, but I usually don't
Dog
like
wagging the
so
tail, basically, or the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you think that they are a rogue actor, that this is a situation where Israel is, that dog is off the leash on some level, that the U.S. has fundamentally lost control of its own entity. Its own colony.
No. I think the dog and the tail are one. I think
I see.
the elite in the West are genuine when they're saying Israel is God's chosen people. They're actually genuinely pushing
terrifyingly.
this. The Witkoffs and the ambassador of the United States in Tel Aviv, whatever his name is right now, I can't remember. They actually believe that they are manifesting Armageddon. Okay. The Western elite believe that they cannot survive without Israel, and therefore they will do anything.
What do you think is in Trump's mind? And I know that's a dangerous place with all sorts of, skeletons and cobwebs. But do you think that ultimately, if he could get a deal, he would want a deal? The reason why I'm asking this, according to the New York Times, and Jeremy, give me 1 second. According to the New York Times, Trump wants a deal, and that Israel believes that ultimately Trump will take a deal and just lie. Like, basically, it's like, okay, I don't want to get into this larger war with Iran. I didn't even have the stomach to deal with potentially having planes shot up the sky by Yemen. And so, yeah, all things being equal, I don't want Israel to screw up some kind of deal that I may get, even if that deal is just a memorandum, even if it's weaker than the JCPOA was. Trump will, he would do it, right? He'd get a deal and lie. He would just say, hey, this is the greatest deal in history of deals. Nobody has ever had a deal this great. We can go in and blow stuff up, even though there will be no proponent of the deal, no part of it at all. And Israel's thing is like, okay, we know this guy's a habitual liar. And our concern is that he would take anything, call it a success, and run with it. We don't want that. And so what we need to do is somehow sabotage this deal, sabotage this effort. And by sabotage, we will hit we would hit Iran, and we would force the U.S. to come in to protect us, because we will need protection, because Iran will rain hell down on us. And to add one last point, may blackmail the U.S. with nukes. Hey, if you don't help us, we may use nukes. And so you need to come to our assistance. Meaning, what do you think is in his mind? Do you think that all things being equal, he would want a deal, all things being equal? Or, as you say, no, he's part of the machine also. He's the guy who's going to be stuck holding that bag.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the Real Housewives of Mar-a-Lago. Okay. This is reality TV that is scripted. What you're seeing is really, this is the difference between the propaganda right now of Trump and what was the propaganda of the Democrats before. The propaganda of Trump is appealing to this reality TV audience. The propaganda of the Democrats is appealing to the PBS and 60-minute watchers, right? You see, this is it. But ultimately, it's all scripted.
Yeah.
Both propagandas are scripted, and people need to understand that and start looking only on actions. Don't listen to anybody what they're saying. Look at the
Agreed.
reality, who took what action, and judge from that. Judging from the last 20 months, the West is willing to give all the weapons, all the money, all the media cover, all the legal cover, all the international diplomatic cover for the Zionists to conduct genocide out in the open.
Yep.
And up until now, no words from France, no words from the Trump administration or Canada or anybody matter. Their actions didn't change. The air bridge of weapons continues. The non-stop surveillance flights by the British and the French and the Canadians and everybody over the area is still continuing. So until something changes, I don't believe none of this reality TV show.
Agreed. I agree with everything that came out of your mouth. Laith, thank you for this, man. I always appreciate these conversations. I think you have your finger on the pulse of the stuff. Mainstream media misses it. I don't know why they continuously miss it, but they do. So thankfully, people like you are paying attention. Laith Marouf is an award-winning multimedia producer and media policy law consultant focused on issues of liberation and decolonialization from indigenous nations to Arab peoples and building broadcasting capabilities for misrepresented and underrepresented communities around the world. You can find Laith on Free Palestine TV, online and on Twitter. Laith, you have a program that is coming out tomorrow, correct?
Yes, you can find it, of course, on our YouTube channel, and all the links to our socials are on freepalestine.video. That's the website, and hopefully, people would watch and share and donate if you can. So this is all, viewer donations that driven content. We don't have any funding from any political parties or NGOs or governments. And we appreciate people have been supporting this work, and we are continuing to produce it. Thank you very much, Jamal, for having me.
No, man, I appreciate you joining me. You be safe, okay? Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Great conversation by Laith. He is